Hello, hello, and welcome back to PS We Have No Plan. I'm Peyton Smith calling in from LA.
And this is Emily McManus calling in from Nashville. And it is great to be here and see your face
I
and see all
know.
the virtual faces in our heads.
I know. It's so nice to be here. We almost had to reschedule, but we are committed to season three, y'all. So
We are. And Peyton is holding my feet to the fire, which was great. I needed, no, I'm serious. I needed it because I didn't feel very prepared for this episode. Luckily, it's something I feel like innately we just know about. So it'll be good to, you know, riff and kind of bounce off of each other. But one of my things this season is I want to be better. I want to be more prepared. I want to show up more professional. And so I had almost an oh shit moment. I'm not ready for this. Like it kind of just snuck up on me. And then I sent P a voicemail and said, "Hey, I'm not really prepared for this. I have not done any research. Can you do it another time? But if not, that's okay."
yeah,
And I always do that. Like, hey, I don't know if I can do this, but don't worry if you can't. I'll figure it out.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you have something going on, of course, but I'm glad that we can make
No.
it work. I realized in my little intro when I said Peyton Smith, that's actually not true as of last week. I officially changed my last name to Weiser. So I am officially Mrs. Peyton Weiser, which is like,
What?
I know, but I think it's just for my brand. Like, I need PS.
That's okay. Well, you know what? A lot of people do that professionally. They stay with their maiden name because that's what people already know you as.
I know. What is your maiden name?
McManus.
Okay, so you've stuck with it. What is
I
Jeff's
have
last name? Wait,
Coleman.
Coleman. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, so I've never changed my name.
So was that ever of interest or no? I know we've talked about this, but I
You
forget.
know, I think at one point maybe it was, but I just feel like I'm a McManus through and through. And I feel a friend of mine once said this, like as time evolves, we're getting married a little bit later in life. And so you do establish yourself a little bit more in either your career path or who you are or in society. So you become a little bit more like in deep with your name and you feel that as also an identity. And I mean, I know that's not the norm to keep it, but that's how I felt, just very connected to my
No, I
name.
get that. I really do get that. And there's certain families that I know have a lot of cultural history as well. Like I know one of my friends has a very traditional Greek name and she's
Oh
dating
wow.
someone who is not Greek. So it's like, does that play
Yeah.
into it once they get married? So I love Wiser. I think it actually makes me more interesting than Smith. So
I
that
think
was
it's so cool.
a nice upgrade. And then my initials are now Paw, which is like little paw, which is
Oh my
cute.
god, it is a little paw. Mew mew. Today's National Cat Day.
I saw that.
Yes. Well, okay, so question.
Yeah.
When it finally came in as official, did you feel different or was it like, oh my gosh, or just like, no, this is here it is?
It felt a little different, I will say. I've always been like, I now get tripped up. I went to the dermatologist this week. I'm like, am I Peyton Weiser, Peyton Smith, and all my documents? So in those ways, it kind of tripped me up. But
Yeah,
feeling wise, I feel like I've
it's
I've
right.
been yeah, it's right. It is
I
right.
love that.
So um
Congratulations, Mrs. Weiser.
thank you so much.
You're
Well, I'm
welcome.
very excited because this episode, like you said, we're gonna unpack stuff together, which I think is honestly kind of fun. Like I like watching those podcasts or listening to those podcasts where they unpack the topic at hand. So, our
Mhm.
topic, surrendering control, because I think that's something that's come up for me so much in the last month and today. By the way, a little astrology update is it's the Lionsgate portal, which
Okay.
means you're supposed to manifest everything, release things you don't want to release, similar to the supermoon, but this is like 8-8 and it's about infinity and your life can be as big as you want it to be today.
I love that. So we should manifest that we win the Powerball.
Yes, yes, we should manifest whatever you want to manifest and write in a journal tonight. Maybe blow out a little candle, say a prayer,
Okay.
whatever you believe in. But I think it's a good day to do that.
And it's called Lionsgate, the Lionsgate.
Lionsgate portal. I think it's like a
Lionsgate.
portal
Oh
into your
my
new
gosh.
life, into
This
your dreamer world.
I can get behind this. I love this stuff. Like I do. I don't know the knowledge and the information like you do, but I am in. I am into all of it.
Right. Okay. So one
Yes.
other astrology update, so wild. I follow this woman who is like scientifically studies this stuff. And so
Oh,
she was like the planets and whatnot. And is that an astronomer? Is that different than an astrologer? I don't know.
yes, because once I took a class in college and I thought it was astrology and it was astronomy.
Oh
So
my
it was
God.
very different.
Okay. Well,
So
there is
go on.
some. Well, she was saying like it has been like everything else, a commoditized. I'm like using words. I don't even know if they're real. Like a commodity. It's become like a way to sell stuff, market stuff. But really, it's like this insanely complicated. Planets are everywhere at every point in time. And so there's clocks you can use to track different things. And certain people like JP Morgan, the original, JP Morgan who started the bank and whatnot, he
Yeah.
was brilliant. He would always have a watch with the planets, and he was supposed to get on the Titanic, for example, but he's like, I can't because this is in retrograde and the planets are this and I can't get on this boat. And he did,
Really?
yes. And all these like weird, smart, wildly, you know, wealthy or successful people are really connected to the planets in some way. The CIA, for example, has an astrologer on hand at all times.
I don't, okay. With
So
that
weird.
information, how can you knock it?
It's just wild. It's like I get the like, here's your love reading for today. Let me read your palm. Like that stuff, believe it or don't believe, whatever. That's kind of funny. But the actual planets and movements and moons and like when timing aligns, like moons move tides in the ocean. So why don't you think that it can
Yes.
impact the
Yes.
energy in you? So it's just once you start understanding it is cool to go with the flow of the energies.
I love it. I love it so, so much. I mean, this is different. I mean, it's very different because it's along the lines of what you're saying, the palm reading. But one time I was in New Orleans and I had my fortune told, my past and future, and it was an unbelievable experience because everything that she said and touched upon was 100% spot on. It made one of my childhood friends was there, so she knows everything about my life and whatnot. And she started to cry.
Oh
She's
my
like, "This
God.
is unbelievable."
Whoa.
So it was just a very wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, I think you can get whatever you want to get out of these things, but there's
Yeah.
no debating science, people. Come on, planets and all that.
No.
Like, get on board.
Yeah, we are very behind science. Anybody that's not behind science, get a grip.
Get a grip. Wait, the other kind of news thing that we haven't touched on. Have you seen that UFOs and aliens and all that news?
They found unearthly biologics.
I'm
Is
like,
that what they're calling it?
yeah, there's like three whistleblowers that showed up in Congress and were like, yo, there's actually like celestial beings that the government has been hiding from you. It's like, what?
Yes. Like they found non-human bodies at crash sites.
Like, what's happening?
Very Men in Black.
Very Men in Black.
Independence Day. Very.
Like,
I know. You know what though? That's something else that I'm a big believer in. I cannot,
of
right?
course.
How can we be so self-centered to think that there is nothing else out there
In the universe? Like, of course there's something else. What?
The universe. Like, I mean, okay, and there's multiple galaxies in the universe. Is that correct? Or are there multiple universe?
Multiple galaxies.
Multiple galaxies.
I think.
Well, because it's beyond our comprehension.
Exactly.
How
It's
vast
massive.
it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's like the ocean. It's like we don't know what's in the ocean. We don't know all
No.
the deep, dark, I don't know. People who are just like can't see past their own experience and lens. I'm like, y'all use your little brain.
Yeah. Listen to PS We Have No Plan because we're
Yeah.
opening up your minds right here.
We don't know any of the terms or what we're probably saying all of this wrong. We're like, there's multiple universes, astrologers.
But we're jumping behind it all in, everybody. We're jumping deep in that ocean.
Oh,
but yes,
God.
aliens are real.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. And then another kind of sad, intense thing. I mean, this is not about celestial beings, but Sophia Bush, who is one of my favorite people ever, got a divorce or is in the process. After like a year. I was like, what's happening? Why? And Natalie Portman too today?
No, there have been rumors swirling about them though for a while.
Okay.
Because
but what is with all these divorces?
I don't know. They're coming. I mean, you tell me. What are the moons saying?
I don't know. We should look. That
We
is
really should
interesting.
look. We really should. Interesting. I was talking to my mom about stuff the other day, and it's so wild because I don't know if it's the age that I'm getting to or what, but now I'm starting to have friends that are getting divorces,
Whoa.
or maybe not friends, but acquaintances. And one is a good friend, but it's kind of weird to see that
Yeah.
playing out in real life because I feel like that's just as a kid, you hear about that. And now, like seeing it, you're like, oh, whoa.
It's really hard. It's really hard. So whether you're confronting
I know.
earthly
We're just like,
problems or universal ones, we
sorry,
are
guys.
here.
Yeah, we are. And you know what? Life.
Life, right?
Life. Like, take it back to last week's episode, the subtle art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah.
Some
I
things
mean,
like aliens, we just don't give a fuck. We're going to accept it.
and honestly, that kind of bleeds into the topic at hand, surrendering control, which kind of goes with what we're talking about. But
True.
if this is your first time tuning in, by the way, we like to start out our podcast by sharing some fun updates about life and what's going on, what we've been caring about throughout the week, and then we'll jump into our topic. So jumping in, surrendering control. Do you want me to cue it up and then we can talk through it together?
100%.
Okay, so I wrote this blog post, you guys. PS we have no plan.com. Go read. And it's about the art of surrendering control, which goes along with our last episode that Emily brought up, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. But this is similar, where it's like leaning into the moment at hand, surrendering your need to control and contrive every situation. And for someone like me, I really do think through things to the nth degree. And so when they don't pan out that way, it's really hard for me to lean into the moment and lean in and be like, well, this is what's supposed to happen. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it
Yeah.
was supposed to be what I planned it to be. It can be really tough. So I've been trying to lean into this surrender to the moment thing. And it's been really useful just to see where life takes me. And if I want to go right, I turn right. And if I want to grab a coffee, I grab a coffee. And if I miss a turn on a highway, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, where am I going today?
This is an
Like,
adventure.
yeah.
I have a question then. Did that
Yeah.
take you? Have you started a process to get to there? Or were you one day just like, no, I need to start surrendering my control. This is what's best for me, and that I'll have a better reward in my life if I do that?
It's a
Or was
good
it a slow
question.
burn?
I honestly think through this year of therapy and my year of like maybe I should write a short story. My year of rest and relaxation. That is a book actually
You
that I've
should.
read. But it's like this past year, I've really done a lot of mental work and mindset shifting and like focus on my emotional well-being. Because for so much of my life, that was not a part I felt in control of. My mind was not, I didn't feel in control of it at all. Same with my emotions. So yeah, I think it's just been a part of this journey of trying to learn more about myself and bring more positivity in my life and reach these dreams and goals that I'm setting for myself. Cause I think so
Mhm.
much of that is your mindset, which we've talked about. So I think, yeah, I think this is just another piece of the puzzle for me to figure out my path to my dreams.
Most definitely. I'm proud of you. I feel like that's huge.
I think so too. What does it mean to you though, when you hear someone saying surrender and control?
I mean, it makes me think a lot because what it automatically actually takes me back to is childhood and adolescence and growing up, where I tried to control everything about me and my outcomes to make it easier for the people around me. So I tried
Mm,
to control my attitude, my outcomes, my
mm-hmm.
how I produce, my school grades, every single thing, what I did at the house to help out. And so everything that I did, I wanted to be able to control so that it helped everybody else.
Mm.
And there are still elements of me that do that, but I'm starting to find that I am, and through therapy as well and boundaries, that is not something that is my sole focus anymore. So I give space for myself a little bit more. And for
Yeah.
me, I think that is surrendering control.
For sure. I think people pleasers, and I was similar.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a very controlled life. It's a very much like, how do I act? How do I talk? How do I think?
Yes.
How do I feel? What do I say? Is that funny? Is it not funny? Is it bringing the room up? Is it
Yes.
like all these things go through your head constantly instead of just and walking into a room like and be like, what do I feel?
Yeah.
okay. And moving with that energy is just sounds crazy to
Crazy.
me.
Oh, well, and one of our past episodes, I think it was season 2, we talked about that and just how in the past we were like the wallflowers, right? We would go into a room and we would always just kind of like be in the background, observe, really wondering what people are thinking about us, judging, am I wearing this okay? How do I sound? What am I going to say in this next conversation? In the
Mm-hmm.
conversation, what am I going to say next after that? And that to me, and I think to you as well, for what you're explaining, that is trying to have absolute control about the whole situation and control of the other people around you.
Exactly. And it sort of does go with the subtle art of not giving a fuck, right? It's like
Oh,
it
totally.
doesn't speak to inability. It doesn't speak to surrendering like and never doing anything. It's
Mm-hmm.
about showing up in a moment and allowing the moment to be the moment. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think
Yeah.
so many of us plan, life out, which it's not to say you can't plan, you can't have expectations, but when you arrive in that moment, for me, what I've been trying to do is surrender to that moment. And I do
Love
think it
that.
allows for more adventure. And if you want to live a practical life, go be practical. If you want to live an adventurous life, have adventures. If you
Have
want to live a
adventure.
romantic life, go be romantic. Right? Like it feels like this is a way to do that.
Yes, because at the same time that you're giving that control up, you're opening yourself up to things that you never even could have thought or imagined could happen, right? And who knows what those things could be, and they could be beyond your wildest dreams.
Exactly. And that's when we watch all these, interviews and podcast episodes and inspirational speeches, almost all of them, the through line is like they did surrender control at some point and
Yes,
they just leaned
yes.
into the moment and they just said yes and they tried something new. And I do think
Mhm.
that only can come from having that mindset.
I
So,
agree. I agree. You kind of put blinders on and you go forward. You just go for it. And you're not really, I think you're aware of everything around you, like who's not, but you just allow the earth in your life to like take you.
exactly. Exactly. And I do think that's the three things I took in the blog post. I said, one, it allows for more adventures, which it does.
Yeah.
Like I brought up an example of when I took a wrong turn last week. I was driving to Venice and it was at 5 p.m. in Los Angeles and it's like the worst time to drive. And I took a wrong turn and I was on a freeway going the wrong way at
Oh.
5 fucking p.m. It was so awful. The traffic was awful. I was like honking my horn and trying to get in and like get off the road. And it's so angry. I was like my cheeks were all getting red. I was like frustrated. And I sort of blacked out. Like I don't even know what could have happened. And I wrote in the blog, I'm like, well, what if, to my left was Harry Styles driving?
Right.
And what if 2 roads ahead I saw this new place that I wanted to go visit, and what if the song
Yes.
that was on in my car reminded me of a beautiful memory that I could have relived? Like
Mm-hmm.
those moments of being in the moment were gone because I was like, I'm frustrated, this isn't what I wanted to this is not what I wanted to happen.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
sucks. That's a silly thing, but that's an example of what I want to do less of.
Oh, well, and this is taking it. I feel like those are very positive outcomes and they're like really beautiful and they're just like this is an adventure. But I think realistic things I read, and I mean this is incredibly sad, but on September 11th, a man was running late to work and he had blisters on his feet from his shoes. So he stopped at a convenience store to get band-aids. And in that time, he would have been in the building when the planes crashed and he was spared because he had to stop and get band-aids.
Oh
So,
my God.
right. So, what was a small inconvenience, he was trying to control getting to work on time, saved his life.
Isn't that wild? And
Yeah.
yes, that is a great example. And that's leads me to number 2 that I wrote in the blog post, which is feel the feelings even if they're sad. And I guess that doesn't really speak to his exact experience,
No,
but
for sure.
it's like if you're like sometimes you and I get really down and
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's supposed to happen. Like maybe you're supposed to be down for a night and instead of fighting those down feelings, just be down. Just watch the
Yes.
comfort movie, order the food that makes you feel good. And
Yes.
like actually maybe in those moments of surrendering control, you'll know how to support yourself and you'll wake up feeling much fresher than if you're pissed that you're sad.
100%. 100. No, you're spot on. And it's when you're happy, it's so good to just like sit in that feeling. But when you're sad, it's
Totally.
hard, right? It's
Yes, it
really hard. And I
is.
think everybody can feel that. And I, it's funny you say that too, because right now I'm in just this weird spot. I've gained like a couple of pounds and I'm really
Mm,
just focused, uber focused on it. Like, why am I not losing this? Why? This is like I'm eating healthy and I'm exercising. So I'm trying to control every single thing about it. And I think that control and obsessing over it is keeping me from being successful with it because I just have to go with my intuition, be healthy, keep doing that, stay consistent, let it go, and it'll work out.
it's really hard to do though. That's a good,
Mhm.
like if you don't mind,
Go.
I'm wondering to hear more about that. So is your like how do you sit with that and how does that are you tracking your weight? Like how do you even know you've gained pounds?
Both. My clothes just fit a tiny bit tighter. And so with that, I then go on the scale, which is the worst thing
Mm,
that you can do, the absolute worst thing that you can do. And so then I see, that it went up. And for me, just seeing that visual number is is painful. And I've talked a lot about my body image and issues with that on the podcast. And I've gotten a lot better. And I'm really proud of myself in that sense. Um, but it still creeps in. And so,
mm-hmm.
when something feels different on my body than it did, say, last year or during COVID, I was probably in the best shape of my life, but I had all the time to run whenever I wanted, to walk the puppy, 2 times a day, whatever it was. And now getting back into a really busy life for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, um, has changed my body a little bit. And I'm not accepting that. Like I'm working to getting back into like what makes me feel good and working on my health and everything. And there's definitely things that I need to like get back on the horse with. But um it challenges me. It challenges me mentally very much so.
So can I probe and I want to
Yeah.
know if this is something like as a challenge to you. I wonder being your little mystical friend. I wonder if this is a season of life that is important for you to learn something from and not just quote unquote get back on the horse or jump back or get snap your body back into what you
Mm-hmm.
know it to be. I wonder if this and what how does that sit with you? Like I wonder if you're
I never
supposed to lean into it and learn something from this.
I never thought about that because and we've sorry, I have dog hair in my mouth. We relate, I think, a lot to this growing up in the military. There's no excuse. Like if you're not healthy, you got to get yourself back healthy. And I'm a big proponent of like staying healthy and just not like getting lazy. There's a difference between being lazy and just resting and giving yourself rest. But I've never really thought about it in the terms that you're saying. And perhaps, and this takes me to something that's just like crazy to say, but if I have a child, in the next year or so, that's something that's completely out of my control. Like you do gain weight. And honestly, that's one of my biggest fears of
Honest, yeah.
having a kid.
I was not gonna say that, but I feel like that's something all women are sort of like, what
Yeah.
happens? And maybe this is universe, God, people, higher powers preparing you and showing you it's okay as you gain
Mm-hmm.
weight. It's okay. This is how you feel when you're doing this. And like it, I
Right,
don't know,
right, right.
maybe that's if you see it like that, especially if you're not, like you said, doing it with a negative mindset. Like you're not stuffing your face with all these awful junk food, never getting
Right.
out and about, depressed and low. And that's such a separate thing. But if you're gaining weight just from living your life, it's like maybe I'm supposed to learn something from this. Like maybe.
Totally. And I've always been somebody like that. Like I ebb and flow no matter what. And on my trip when I was overseas, I walked miles and miles every day, and the food didn't have the same preservatives as it does here. So I definitely think there's a change in that as well in my lifestyle, even though that was just a month and a half or whatever. But yeah, I think surrendering the control of that and not being so obsessed with getting to the outcome that I want as quick as I can get there.
Instead, maybe journaling or sitting with your thoughts and being like, how does this make me feel? And I don't like that my thoughts are going towards negative things. Like maybe
Yeah.
I should say something nice. And I I don't know. I find that when I have those moments, and I can share from this last year, I've tried to control my sadness a lot, and I can get into really anxious headspaces and get really down on myself and feel really, really low. I have had many low
Yeah.
points in life and throw myself little pity parties. And that's not my vibe. Like that's not what I want to give off. Like I love my yellow, bright, happy energy that
Yes.
I can give off. And I love my positivity, my Zen vibe. So when I'm not that, it makes me feel bad. And I'm like, oh, why am I anxious? And why do I care about these stupid things that I don't want to care about? So it's like
Yes.
I've learned to
Yes.
lean into it a bit more. And actually, one of my characters in my script I'm writing struggles with anxiety, and I'm pulling from my own experience. And I'm like, wow, maybe that's why I had to live through that. Because now I have this character in this, movie that I'm creating that will
Yeah.
hopefully one day come to fruition. And I couldn't authentically write that character had I not experienced it.
100%.
Sort of
But
yeah.
in
But
those
you
moments that you went through it, you don't see the purpose of it.
no, you never do. And so
No.
that's my point to you. And maybe this is something it could just simply be nothing, but
No.
I'm such a connector of something bigger.
Listen, Peyton, so am I. So
Right?
am I. But sometimes you just like right now, it's like accepting those things.
Yes.
It's just allowing
Yes.
yourself to accept it.
Yes. And being like, wow, maybe this is part of my story. Maybe I have to
Maybe.
learn something from this. And people
Yes.
who constantly try to quote unquote get back on track or like feel themselves wandering in one direction after not being in that direction, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
get me back, get me back. This is not my
Mm-hmm.
safe zone. I don't
Mm-hmm.
look the way I'm supposed to look. I don't feel the way I'm supposed to feel. It's like,
Yeah.
maybe this is your journey.
Yeah, lean into it. Let's go one day at a
Yes.
time. Feel it, everything. And I agree with you. I definitely agree with you.
But
I
it's
think that
itchy. It's uncomfy. It doesn't feel good.
it's so fucking itchy
Yeah.
and
And
it's tight.
yeah, and a lot of people talk about especially those types of things like mental health and weight gain and physical stuff. It's like
Yes,
tons of people have opinions on what's right and what's
of
wrong. And
course. Of
it's hard to
course.
not let it dictate your inner self. So that's why I love this surrender control mantra, because I'm like, oh my God, let's surrender.
Let's surrender. Okay, so you said you had 3 points in your blog. And I
I
think
did.
okay, what's number 3?
Number 3 was, what is number 3?
Wait, let's
Number
do a
3.
recap. So what number 1 was
Number 1 was you get to have more adventures by surrendering
yes.
control. Number
Number
2 was you get to feel all the feelings, not just the happy
yes.
ones, not just the ones when you're feeling good and bright. You
No.
get to feel life, and life's up and
All
down.
all of them. All of them.
Oh, and then this is the third one is you have opportunities to connect. Because I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
right? Because when you're really in your body and you're really authentic and you're grounded and you're surrendering to the moment, there's so much more opportunity to connect with things. Even if you're alone, you notice the leaves, you notice the song, whatever. It's like you form connections with the world
Mm-hmm.
around you when you're being present.
Peach, how about us in our meeting? Like we opened ourselves up to have like get to know
Totally.
each other over Instagram. And now we have this genuine, one of the best friendships of my life.
Totally agree. It's like that, who would have known? Like just this inkling in you being like, and me being like, oh my gosh, I feel this weird connection with this person. I can't explain why.
No.
Fast forward 2 years and we're like sisters. That's such a
Yes.
strange thing.
But we gave it a shot. We're like, okay,
Yeah.
yes, this feels right. We didn't have a direction or, a purpose behind it at all, but You chase those feelings, I think. You open yourself up to the possibility of other things.
Yes, agreed. And those connections can form. And so that's
Mhm.
why I love this as well. But what is a moment, if you can think, obviously our partnership, but something else where you surrendered control? Maybe on your trip, was there moments where you surrendered control and you had an opportunity to connect in a new way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, nearly every day. I rarely had a plan when I was walking around. I kind of just started the day, got my coffee, and started walking. And I would have little things that maybe I wanted to pop in and see, but most of the day was just exploring and seeing what I would stumble upon. And, one day they were doing changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, and I got to see that. Or, oh man, my friend told me about this wine bar, and I went in there and I met this couple from Liverpool, and they told me all about like Liverpool and the Beatles were from there, and like it was just super cool. And I never would have met these people before. Um, and I think I- for me, I guess it wasn't one moment. It was kind of the whole time together because I allowed myself to
Yeah.
just go.
To just be, to just
Yeah,
see what
just
happens. And
be.
that's
Hmm.
so tough for me. And it was hard to put a mindset framework around it. And so I loved this mindset framework of the art of surrendering, because it is an
Yeah.
art form. And that's what, same with the art, the subtle art of not giving a fuck. It's like these art forms, similar
Yes.
to painting or drawing or anything else. It does take practice and commitment. And it does take, sometimes it's going to land and hit really hard. And you're like, oh, thank God, this art of surrendering. And sometimes you're going to be like, fuck this art of surrendering. I'm a control freak today. And I feel, it's,
Absolutely.
it's an art form. So it is like,
It
that's
takes
the other
time.
piece of it. Yes, it takes time and sometimes it works and some days it doesn't.
Hmm.
But I find that as a writer, I'm finding so much more ammo for my stories by being more in my body, and just, if it's raining, going in a coffee shop and writing instead of going for a walk, or if I'm feeling really tired for unknown reasons, instead of feeling like guilty for not exercising, I'll sleep in an hour later and I'll watch The Summer I Turned Pretty. And that'll
Yes.
give me an idea for a story. It's just like, wow, once I surrender, it all makes more sense.
It's just not being as hard on yourself, maybe too. I
Mm-hmm.
think there are little pockets to this whole art of surrendering control.
Yeah.
And I I do. For me right now, just hearing all of those things, sleeping in, getting to watch the show, um, not beating yourself up if it's raining and so you want to go have a coffee instead and take that in. You're allowing yourself once again to feel the changes of the day that were out of your control.
And that, for you and I, as people who
That's
believe in
huge.
these bigger stories and these dreams and these adventures, it's like, oh my God,
Hmm.
that makes so much more sense than trying to contrive a day and getting these outcomes instead of leaning into the moment. It's like, wow, this is the bigger
Right.
story.
Absolutely. And something that you and I have always bonded over was the fear of normalcy,
Yes.
right? Normalcy, repetition, the same thing day in and day out. And I think, you know, perhaps that is not surrendering to control, like holding on to whatever you can control in every little piece of your life or what's comfortable.
Yes. Yes. And
Oh, that makes me scared already.
and that, and that's what I said earlier. And I want to repeat it because it was I read
Please.
this line, and it's, if you want to live a practical life, be practical. I think Jay Shetty said something
Yes.
like this. And if you
That
want
was a
to,
great TikTok.
I mean, it's so true. If you want to if you want to be adventurous, have adventures. If you want to
Hmm.
be romantic, right? Like, it's duh, and it's same. And he was saying it in a slightly different way, where he's like, if you want to connect with someone over meaningful conversation, have meaningful conversations.
Right.
If you want to connect with people who talk about money, go talk about your money. Right? It's
You
like,
attract what you put out there and how you present yourself.
duh.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when you say it, you're like, duh. If you give off that vibe and you talk about that shit all the time, that's the shit you're going to receive back.
Right. And it's just like when you hear people say, like, well, that never would happen, or I can't do that because it's not going to work out for me, or
Then
that
it never
movie star.
will.
Exactly. If you think like that, well, then absolutely it's not going to. What the fuck do you
100%.
think?
100%. And that's when people, Miley Cyrus actually recently said this about her dating pool. She was like, I was going to bars to meet people. And then I'm like, wait. And then I was mad that I was meeting these alcoholics that had drinking problems. No shit. I'm trying to meet the love of my life at a bar.
Right.
That's not what I actually want to live a sober life. So I'm going to go to the gym. As silly as that, I'm going to try to meet someone at the gym. I have this coffee shop that sells this matcha that I absolutely love. I'm going to go to there, right? And try to meet someone there. It's like put yourself in the situation where you're going to attract the right energy, you're going to connect
Yes.
with the right people. It is so much about this bigger topic of energy and planets and whatever else you want to believe in, but it's like to me it makes a lot of sense.
It makes so much sense. And if maybe you're not in that space yet of who you are, but that's the vision of who you want to be or who it is in your core,
Totally.
go. Go take yourself there. It doesn't matter if,
Totally.
right? It 100% is like if kind of like what you said earlier, if your perception of yourself and who you want to be is that sunshine, that ray of sunshine, okay, put yourself around those ray of sunshine people. Yes,
Yes. That
right?
is what I'm
Yes.
saying. And I it's
Yes.
and dress the part, feel the part, think the part. Like
Absolutely.
that comes into play all the time. The Will I Am talked about this. He was like, I grew up in the projects. I was being recruited to a gang. I had no reason to think I was going to get out of there. But he was like, I just knew in my head, I want something else for myself.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he asked his mom to sew him a suit, and he wore that suit everywhere, and he drove past all of these big office buildings and record labels and would drive himself and then walk around areas wearing his suit and imagine himself
That's
doing these.
amazing. I didn't know that.
And he talks about these mindset things all the time. It's just this morning I wore overalls in this cute little clip because I was trying to be Brittany Murphy from Uptown Girls. And I'm like, I want to be an
Oh,
artist and silly and bring my tote bag.
yes. Or
And
your Daisy Jones outfit the other night,
oh my God, totally. I was
which snaps
totally,
for that. Snaps, major snaps for that.
you would have laughed at me though. We were like on Rodeo Drive doing ridiculous things. I went out that night. It was like I got hit on, which never happens because I never leave my house. But
Mrs.
it's like,
Weiser.
I know. I was like, oh my God.
Thank you.
It was so flattering, but it's just that energy was, I was giving off that fun
Yes.
energy that's not usually, and I don't know how to explain it, but it is wild when you embrace those people or things you want to be and you
Yes.
get that back.
And that was you that night,
Yes, I was Daisy Jones
right?
that night. I was like drunk off pink margaritas with my little sister wearing a
Oh,
little
that
t-shirt
sounds
dress.
amazing. Amazing. With
It
those
was.
heels, everything. Yes.
It's
And
great.
that's absolutely like when I'm at home, I'm in sweats all the time. And you know what? That's just me. But if I want to go and like get dressed up and wear dresses and heels, some days
Yes,
that is me too. Or I love a fucking black tie event. You bet your ass I'm going to the nines. The nines about it.
totally. Totally. And that's a very practical way to visualize
Mm-hmm.
yourself in the situations you want to be in and be a part of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's something that we all can do. Like it's a very easy or it's a simple first step.
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think
Mm-hmm.
some of these bigger topics you really have to feel. And it's
Yeah.
it, like the surrendering control, that is so inside your head. No one else can
Yes.
see you doing that. But
Mm-mm.
it's like
Mm-mm.
you and I are there because we believe in these bigger things, but that's a little bit harder for certain people. But the manifesting, like living that dream, like
Yes.
listening to the music as if you're in a movie,
Yes.
listening to applause as if you're getting an award, that type of shit works.
It 1000% works.
It works. I used to do that all the time with volleyball games. Like I would visualize myself getting the goal. I would listen to like club music, like
Yes.
LMFAO, like play shots, like I'm gonna party after. I visualize myself celebrating after. And it always helped. Always.
Speechless. Honestly, no words to follow that because it does.
It does. It does. And that's the only through line that I've been able to identify with all of these quote unquote successful people or people living the life that I want to live
Mm-hmm.
is they have this mindset like, this is the life for me. This
And I'm
is
not
for
going to
me.
accept anything less.
Not going to accept
Right?
anything less. I'm going to surrender to the adventure of it all. And it's just more help. It's comforting feeling in some ways too. Cause even the sad
It's
shit, it's like, well, it's supposed to be this
yes.
way.
Yes. And surrendering, part of that is knowing that every day is not going to go, oh, I don't even know what train of thought I was going on that, but just that not accepting less than, but knowing that each day is not going to feel like you're taking one step closer and
Yes.
accepting that.
Yes. Yes.
I
And
think that was a
having,
little bit more what I was thinking.
I mean, yeah, I think there's just so much comfort in being like, there's a bigger story to be told. And each day is bringing me closer to what I want, as long as I'm just trusting that
Yes.
life will
Yes.
take me there somehow and not feeling like I know it's a very selfish thing to be like, I know what I need to do
Yes.
everything right. No, you don't. You don't
Yes.
actually. And you don't get to control the weather and the
No.
traffic patterns and your feeling, even your mind sometimes. You don't get to control those things. So
Oh
lean
gosh, no.
in. Yeah.
Because
Lean
there's
in.
only so much that we can do. So yes, lean in. Honestly, I love that.
Surrender and just like float through life.
Surrender. Listen, I'm on a cloud. We're on clouds and I like it.
Oh my God, me too.
Hey, I love this episode.
I agree. I agree. Well, hopefully everyone else got something from this episode and share, DM us. We love when we get DMs and messages from
Love it.
people around episodes. So let us know what you think about surrender and control. Follow us on PS We Have No Plan across all socials. Go read the blog post on pswehavenoplan.com and we'll see you
It's a
next
great
week.
one. Bye, everybody.
I woke up in the morning and the sun broke through the open curtains. The birds sang too and they said, "This is a day to celebrate."